I'm 42. Well past the age of believing in fairy tales. It didn't take much effort for me to find the mermaid Eric had been talking about. She was the new accountant at the firm, probably around 28 or 29. In the sweltering summer heat, she was dressed in a tight tank top and a denim miniskirt, strutting around in stilettos. Her toenails were painted a deep wine red and her feet, smooth, pale and polished to perfection, looked like sculpted marble. She was stunning. Eric was standing outside a sidewalk cafe, ordering drinks for her. She lingered by the door, tossing her hair and flirting as they chatted, every move oozing with invitation. Even strangers walking by couldn't help but steal a glance. And I stood across the street, half hidden in the shade of a tree, something heavy and bitter catching in my throat. Like trying to swallow air that wouldn't go down. Choking on it. After all these years with Eric, I knew exactly what kind of man he was. He wouldn't parade his mistress around unless he was absolutely sure of what came next. He was baiting me. Just waiting for me to snap. Because the moment I caused a scene, he'd have every excuse he needed to file for divorce. Clean, easy, guilt-free. But why the hell should I make it that easy? We built everything from the ground up. Together. Back when the tension between work and home was tearing us apart, it was him who pushed me to quit my job to stay home to focus on family. He made it sound like love. Like partnership. Now he's just quietly rewriting our story behind my back, turning the page with a knife in his hand. That bastard. He thinks I'll let this go quietly? Not a chance. One iced latte, please. I stepped off the scorching asphalt and walked straight up to Eric. He was just picking up 2 drinks from the counter when he spotted me. His face immediately tightened with a frown. Sweetheart, could you cover the tab for me? I said, casually shifting my body to block his path. There was still a line of people waiting behind him. The moment the words left my mouth, the air turned awkward. People started glancing over, puzzled expressions flickering across their faces. So, they're not a couple? Whoa, busted. Is this one of those wife catches the cheater in public scenes? Someone had already pulled out their phone to record, and a few others looked downright thrilled, like they'd stumbled into a live reality show. Eric, clearly caught off guard, didn't dare make a scene. He swiped his card with a tight jaw and turned to leave. I acted like I'd just noticed Vanessa and said in a calm, neutral tone, "You two seem pretty close. What a coincidence running into each other like this." Vanessa's face shifted instantly. She shook her head quickly, voice nervous. "Emily, I'm just here with Eric to meet a client." "Really?" I stared at her, cool and steady. "Then is the meeting over already?" She bit her lip, clearly flustered, her eyes brimming with tears as she looked helplessly toward Eric. That's when Eric lost it. He leaned in, hissing under his breath, "What the hell are you trying to do? Stop making a scene. Go home." Oh, he had the nerve to get angry. After all these years of keeping quiet, never picking a fight, never pushing back, he really thought he could walk all over me? Or did he just assume I'd aged out of having a backbone? "You think I'm making a scene?" I raised my voice, sarcasm dripping from every word. "Tell me, folks. My husband's out on a date with another woman, and I'm not even allowed to ask a question? What's the matter, Eric? Was the client today supposed to be the owner of this coffee shop?" Laughter erupted from the crowd. Vanessa's face turned from red to pale in a blink. Someone chimed in with a smirk. "Client, huh? We overheard them talking about going fishing tonight." Another added, "Girl, don't believe a damn word those two say." Voices swirled around us, each one sharper than the last. Vanessa couldn't take it anymore. She covered her face and ran off. Eric shot me a venomous glare and moved to chase after her. I let out a cold laugh. "What's wrong, Eric? Trying to make that late-night fishing trip with your mermaid story official?" He froze mid-step, his face darkening like he'd just swallowed a mouthful of rotten seafood. "Divorce." The moment we got in the car, he spat out the word through gritted teeth. I sat in the passenger seat, casually sifting through the clutter in the console. Lipstick, a hair clip, women's perfume, even a pair of torn black stockings. "Classy," I muttered in disgust, pulling my hand back like I'd touched something filthy. Eric flushed with embarrassment, but quickly masked it with righteous indignation. "Since you already know everything, let's just cut to the chase. Let's go file the divorce papers today." "Hold on." I turned to him, my voice cold as ice. "Eric, tell me why." He let out a mocking laugh. "Because you're ugly." Because you've turned into a petty, small-town housewife. He was calm now, eerily so. But every word that followed was soaked in venom. All you ever do is whine about grocery prices or nag about our daughter's grades. You've failed at parenting, your own parents don't respect you. So tell me, what value do you even have anymore? The words hit me like a knife to the chest. I'm not made of stone. This was the man who once whispered promises of forever into my ear. Now every sentence he spoke felt laced with poison, aimed straight at my softest spots. Do you know why I became this version of myself? The pain crawled through my bones. My fingertips went cold and sweat pooled in my palms. I clenched my jaw, voice sharp as a blade. It was you, feeding me that whole, children need their mother speech over and over again. That's why I gave up my career. That's why I stayed home. You enjoyed the stability I brought to this family, and now you turn around and treat me like I'm nothing more than a woman who lives in the kitchen. Well, that's because. Spare me. I cut him off, voice steady but resolute. Everything I gave up for this family doesn't get measured by your paycheck. I'll agree to the divorce, I continued firmly. But since you're the one who cheated per our agreement, you walk away with only a quarter of the assets. If you're fine with that, let's go sign the paperwork at the lawyer's office today. He said I was ugly. That I looked like an old woman. I gave a faint laugh and added, Eric, maybe you've been too busy to look in a mirror. You really think you're some kind of sex symbol? You. He was shaking with rage. Don't flatter yourself, I said with a smirk. Even those age spots on your face are starting to show. That pushed him over the edge. He clenched his jaw, practically snarling. Sure, we started the company together, but I'm the one who kept it running. You barely did anything. Did your brain eat your common sense? I didn't hold back. If I had been the one working while you stayed home raising a kid, do you really think I couldn't have built that company? I was a fool back then, too young, too naive. Blinded by his sweet talk, I gave everything without asking for anything in return. You stayed home because you wanted to. No one forced you, only an idiot would. Will you shut up already? I'd run out of patience. You want your mistress and my money? You thought I'd just keep playing housekeeper for free. I flung the car door open and stepped out, voice cold and sharp. We're done here, Eric. If you think the split's unfair, take it to court. Otherwise, don't waste my time, and don't you dare short me a single cent. I had planned to return to the company and revive my career once Chloe finished high school. I thought maybe it wasn't too late to reignite that old fire. But no. All I wanted was to sever every last tie with Eric as quickly as possible. On the third day he reached out to me. I just finished getting my hair done when his call came in. He wanted to meet and finalize everything. I let out a cold laugh. Just as I expected. Choosing between a wife and a mistress. What an easy multiple-choice question. Especially for a man who just crawled into his mistress's bed. Eric could barely wait to get rid of me. I agreed without hesitation. After the salon I stopped by a few boutiques. Picked up new dresses, heels, jewelry, a couple of handbags. By the time I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Polished, radiant, like I'd turned the clock back 10 years. Pleased with my reflection, I headed to the cafe. You're late. Eric started scolding the moment he saw me, but the words died halfway out of his mouth when his eyes landed on me. His expression froze. Whatever he'd planned to say got stuck in his throat. Like what you see. I gave a little twirl. The burgundy dress hugged my figure perfectly, the clean lines accentuating every curve. I'd kept my makeup light, just enough to highlight the glow on my skin. Even I felt like I was looking at my 30-year-old self again. Eric. He nodded reflexively, clearly stunned. But just then a soft, delicate voice broke the moment. Vanessa tilted her face upward, her eyes rimmed with red, looking like some fragile flower wilting in a cold wind. Eric snapped back to reality, his expression darkening. So what, you dressed up like this just to impress me? Let me tell you, no amount of makeup or clothes is going to win me back. I met his glare with a chill in my voice. You're pathetic, Eric. Every word out of your mouth sounds like it's coming from a desperate little clown. Is it that hard for you to admit I look better now that I'm leaving you? He launched into another tirade, calling me bitter, dramatic, emotionally unstable. I just laughed. This is the same temper I had 20 years ago. If I hadn't been this sharp, you would have been eaten alive back when we started the company. He knew I was right. In those early years he was too young, too shy, and way too pretty. constantly getting cornered at client dinners, pressured into drinking, groped under the table. He never stood up for himself. It was me, cracking jokes, talking circles around everyone, shielding him with laughter and sarcasm, that protected both his pride and our business. And now he wanted to throw that back in my face? Eric fell silent, words caught in his throat. Vanessa jumped in, her voice syrupy sweet. Emily, that's not what Eric meant. We came here today to have a real conversation. You still matter to him. He's thought things over. He doesn't want a divorce. I raised a brow. So you've decided not to divorce? She nodded. I smiled faintly. Good. That means I'm still the legal wife. Do whatever you want when I'm not around, but when I'm present, know your place. She really thought this was her negotiation to lead? That she was here to talk terms with me? Vanessa's face twisted again, looking like she might cry at any second. Eric, ever her knight in shining armor, snapped. Do you have to be so cruel to her? What, am I supposed to thank her? I scoffed. I tapped my fingers against the table, laughing coldly. Tell me, Eric, if I brought a younger man around, flirted with him in front of you, mocked you for getting old and losing your edge, would you sit here and have a polite chat? He went silent again. I leaned in. We might go our separate ways, but let's be clear about one thing, respect still matters. In front of me she's the mistress. If she forgets that, I won't be polite. You're unbelievable. Vanessa finally cracked, tears streaming down her face, her voice shaking. I stared at her coolly. If you want to be the mistress, grow the spine to take what comes with it. Blame Eric, he's the one who still won't divorce me. I'm not his mistress. No. I turned to Eric with a mocking smile. Then go ahead. Divorce me. He clenched his fists, nearly knocking over his coffee. But he didn't say a word. I shrugged. See? As long as he stays married to me, you'll always just be the punchline to an affair. Vanessa broke down completely, crying like she was mourning the dead. Eric was fuming, accusing me of being cruel and unreasonable. I looked at him calmly. I didn't come here to watch her sob. If we're done here, don't waste my time. I've got a date at the club with my hot young guy. You're out chasing men now? Eric stared at me, eyes wide with rage and disbelief. Emily, do you even have any shame left? I sipped my coffee unfazed. You cheated in broad daylight and expect me to play the grieving widow? That's cute. Setting my cup down, I locked eyes with him. From now on, we play the happy couple for the holidays. Beyond that, you live your life, I live mine. Life's too short to keep dragging dead weight. Better to spend the second half living well, on my own terms. A few days later, I was out shopping with some friends when Eric's furious call came in. You haven't been home for days. What the hell are you doing? I raised an eyebrow and replied, why does it matter to you how I'm spending my time? His breathing grew heavier on the other end. Chloe is home and no one's there to take care of her. I almost laughed out loud. Listen to yourself, Eric. Aren't you her father? I couldn't help but add with a tone of sarcasm, I've taken care of her for over 10 years. I've been the one handling everything. Now just because I take a few days off, you come at me saying no one's looking after Chloe? If you really think no one's there for her, then you can take care of her yourself. Or hire a nanny. Why are you yelling at me? I'm starting to think you've mistaken me for your free housekeeper. Eric and I had been married for 20 years. The first 3 years we worked together to build our business, but the following 17 I stayed at home taking care of his entire family. Eric had high standards when it came to living quality, and Chloe inherited his exacting nature. His old-fashioned, spiteful mother, Lucy, never thought women deserved respect. She believed women were simply meant to serve men. She adamantly refused to hire a housekeeper, claiming that doing the housework would strengthen my character. All the household chores and the family's issues fell squarely on my shoulders. For 17 years I did it all. Lucy, always frail and confined to a wheelchair, required constant care. I did everything, the dirty work, the heavy lifting, and all the cleaning. Our daughter's grades fluctuated and I personally tutored her, nearly driving myself crazy in the process. Meanwhile, Lucy and Eric only offered snide remarks, saying I was the one failing to teach her properly, blaming my methods and telling me to reflect on myself. From cutting fruit into specific shapes to deboning fish. If they took off their smelly socks or left dirty clothes lying around, I was the one who had to clean up after them. And there was always Lucy's cold sarcasm, Eric's endless criticism, and Chloe's constant defiance during her teenage years. I had long had enough. Mom. Suddenly, Chloe's voice came through the phone, filled with anger. How could you do this? I responded, calm but firm. What do you think I should do? She went silent, the words stuck in her throat. I continued, my voice steady. You want me to be the same perfect mom who worries about every little thing and organizes your life perfectly, right? But that kind of mom never gets your respect. I paused before adding, I'm a person too, not a robot. Not steel, not some all-powerful program. Chloe, you're 17 now. If you need help, of course, come to me. But the day-to-day stuff, you should start handling on your own. I made myself clear. On the other end, I could hear Chloe starting to cry. Eric, who was nearby, began cursing me for being cold-hearted. I asked him, who raised her for these 17 years? Just a few days and you can't handle it? Where were you when I was staying up all night feeding her? Always yelling, never self-reflecting. After hanging up, I accessed the home surveillance system. Sure enough, while Eric was yelling at me, he was also talking to Vanessa. The tone he used, it was clear he planned to have her move in. And Chloe heard it all. When Eric hung up, Chloe completely broke down, crying uncontrollably. So it was you who pushed Mom away with your affair. And now you want to bring her into our house. Eric, annoyed, responded, your mom doesn't care about you anymore. Isn't it better to have someone else take care of you? Chloe yelled, she's my mom. My real mom. If you don't care about her, then why don't you try swapping moms? Chloe. Eric shouted. But Chloe wouldn't back down. She ran out of the living room, crying. I felt a pang of pain in my chest. I quickly dialed Chloe's number. The issues between your dad and me aren't yours to carry. I spoke gently. What I said earlier wasn't to sever our relationship, but to tell you that you're growing up. There are things you need to handle on your own. And if you can't respect me, then maybe we need some space. Mother-daughter relationships are just like any other relationship. They can't be a bottomless pit of sacrifice. Over the past few years, as she entered her teenage years, our emotional exchanges had become more and more strained. Every conversation felt like a fight, doors slammed, things broken. I was exhausted. Maybe this time apart would help us both cool down. Mom. She cried my name through the phone and I leaned back in my chair, covering my forehead. I took a few deep breaths before continuing. Don't worry about your dad and me. If the atmosphere at home is too much, you can always come to me. You're always welcome here. But Chloe, stubborn as always, insisted I should come back home. After hearing my words, she only left one reply, I don't need you to fix things, I'll figure it out, and hung up. When I tried calling again, she had blocked me from all contact. Chloe was about to enter her final year of high school. Her grades were still middling, leaving everyone anxious. In the past, I would have already started planning how to tutor her, helping her with practice tests and creating study schedules. But now I've let go. If she doesn't want to study, then so be it. Forcing her into it will only backfire. I won't end up sick over something I can't control. As for my relationship with her, if she doesn't want to see me right now, I'll give her space. Later, I'll sit down and talk to her properly when she's ready. The heat was unbearable, so I booked a stay at a resort, somewhere quiet in the Adirondack Mountains, just to catch my breath and escape this mess for a while. I only stopped by the house to grab my passport. But the moment I stepped through the door, I was greeted by a scene straight out of a soap opera. The entire Bennett family was there, and Vanessa was bustling around the kitchen like she owned the place. Emily, look who finally decided to come home, Eric sneered, his voice laced with sarcasm, his eyes darting behind me as if expecting someone else. Relax, I didn't bring a man home, I replied with a sugary smile. I'm not you. Then I handed Chloe a pair of limited edition headphones she'd been wanting for months. Sweetheart, I'm heading to the Adirondacks for a little vacation. I'll bring you back a gift, all right? She rolled her eyes. I couldn't care less where you go. I'll miss you, I said lightly, patting her shoulder before heading upstairs to pack. The second I walked into the bedroom, I saw multiple large suitcases on the floor, 2 already open. Clothes were hanging from the closet racks. And my belongings? Shoved messily into a corner like junk. Eric, I called from the top of the stairs. Do you want to pack Vanessa's things yourself, or should I do it for you? The clatter in the kitchen went dead silent. Don't be so unreasonable. Eric finally stiffened, clearly reacting to Vanessa's expression. I chuckled. You really don't get it, do you? This house is jointly owned. I'm still your wife. Who the hell gave you the right to let someone else invade my space? I gave her permission, came another voice. Lucy, Eric's mother, puffed up with indignation. I turned to Eric with an incredulous look. Seriously? You're just going to stand there and let your mother spew nonsense like this? You ever think about teaching her the basics of property law? Her opinion is mine, Eric said, flat and smug. I laughed coldly. Perfect. In that case, I won't hold back either. Maybe I'll invite my new boyfriend to move in for 6 months. Let's see how you enjoy being the one stuck in a marriage while your wife's sleeping with someone else. No point pretending anymore. The masks were off. Let's all get dirty together. Eric's face went pitch black. Still, he didn't say a word. So I pulled out my phone and called. Hey Daniel, bring your stuff over. I'll send you the address. Emily. Eric exploded, kicking over a chair in the living room. You really want to drag this out, huh? Fine. You want to play legal owner? I'll buy another house and move in with Vanessa. Let's see what else you've got to throw at me. Nothing at all, I shrugged, completely unbothered. Best of luck to both of you. Did he think moving out with Vanessa would make me jealous? That it would hurt me? Pathetic. If he thought I'd be rattled by the idea of him playing house with his mistress, he was living in a fantasy. Oh, one more thing, I added casually. You are legally forbidden from using any joint assets to buy her anything, not even a bottle of shampoo. That was my final line. If we weren't divorcing, then we'd play strictly by the book. Vanessa was in tears, shoulders shaking with every sob. I rolled my eyes. Go on, keep crying. Is that all you're good at? Crying day and night? Honestly, Eric's luck won't last long with you draining it. Shut your mouth, Eric growled, his expression murderous. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching as Vanessa sobbed and started packing. Eric couldn't take more than a few minutes of her drama. He grabbed his keys and stormed out, muttering some lame excuse. As soon as the door closed behind him, Vanessa's tears stopped like someone flipped a switch. Her face twisted in fury as she screamed, "You bitch. No wonder Eric wants to leave you. Why don't you just drop dead?" Oh. Finally dropped the act. I raised an eyebrow, completely unfazed. Back when Eric and I fell in love, you were probably still on the playground. Sure, maybe he's sick of me now, so you get your turn. But give it time, he'll get sick of you too. You really think you're the main character in this story? It's not that love turns rotten so quickly. It's just that some men will stoop to taste even the mud on the street. So what? She snapped, eyes blazing. Eric loves me now. If you just back off, we wouldn't have any problems. You're the one interfering. Oh. I smirked. What now? Are you planning to kill me? Either she'd lost her mind or she was living in a delusion. I shook my head with pity. He won't even divorce me for you. You really believe he loves you? Get real. And while we're at it, you two planning to have a baby? That poor kid, born from a mistress raised in shame. You. She lunged at me in fury. I slapped her clean across the face, hard enough to shut her up. If you're going to sneak around, don't expect to hold your head high, I said coldly. Vanessa collapsed into tears again. Too bad for her. Eric wasn't home to see the show. But Chloe was. She stood silently at the doorway, watching everything unfold. Her eyes sparkled with something unfamiliar, like she was seeing me for the first time. A few seconds later she said shyly, "Mom, you were so cool just now." Silly girl. I walked over and pulled her into a hug, gently ruffling her hair. I was just standing up for what's mine. Eric and I once had love. But time has a way of washing everything clean. Eventually, Vanessa was kicked out of the house. I grabbed my passport and got ready for my trip. Originally, I wanted to take Chloe with me, but she surprised me by saying, "Mom, can you sign me up for a tutoring program?" She actually asked to study. Of course, I was happy to spend the money. The Adirondack Mountains were just as refreshing and peaceful as I'd hoped. The resort was full of singles in their 30s and 40s, and the vibe was relaxed and light-hearted. I went hiking with new friends to watch the sunrise, took pictures of glowing sunsets, watched eagles soar and wild horses gallop across open fields. I snapped dozens of photos, basked in the sun, and fully embraced this little slice of life that belonged only to me. Chloe messaged me saying the pictures I posted on social media were stunning. Eric, on the other hand, commented that I was acting way too wild for my age. I blocked him, everywhere. Phone, social media, everything. He even tried calling me from a new number to ask why. I blocked that too. Later, Chloe told me Eric had officially moved in with Vanessa. Even his mother decided to move in with them, which meant Chloe had no choice but to leave our house and go with them. They were living in an upscale neighborhood not far from us, but the house was rented, not owned. Chloe had overheard them fighting multiple times over whether to buy a home, but every argument ended unresolved. I told her, forget their mess. It's not your problem. Before school started, I returned home. I brought Chloe a few gifts, a delicate handmade necklace and a box of scented candles. But it was Vanessa who answered the door. The moment she saw me, her expression soured. What are you doing here? Looking to stir up drama again? I'm here to see Chloe, I said calmly, then added, and by the way, it's just a rental. No need to act like you've moved into a mansion. You. She was so furious she couldn't speak. I handed Chloe the gifts and casually suggested, come on, let's grab a bite. You've lost weight. That's because her cooking is disgusting, Chloe grumbled. Grandma's blood pressure's up from arguing about it. You're exaggerating, I chuckled. No, I'm not. The kitchen looks like a disaster zone. She doesn't clean, Dad's white shirts are stained yellow like he rolled in mud, and whenever Dad's not home she picks fights with Grandma. She waved her hands around as she talked, acting out every scene. Vanessa turned red. You're making things up. Chloe snorted. Dad might believe you, but Mom never puts up with your crap. It was like she'd suddenly found her voice. She clung to my arm, talking nonstop. I looked at her, serious now. Things are chaotic over there. Do you want to come back with me or stay here? Of course I'm coming with you. She smiled brightly, leaning her head on my shoulder. For once, there were no talks of grades or expectations, just a warm, quiet moment between mother and daughter. To be honest, she'd actually been working hard on her summer studies. Maybe giving her some space really had made a difference. Maybe she'd surprise me after all. Eric only called once, on the landline. Same old story. You're still so hot-tempered. When are you going to take me off your block list? I already did, I said coolly. Wouldn't want Vanessa getting jealous. You're joking, right? It's not like I'm trying to flirt with you. He actually sounded offended, like he had every right to be in touch. Chloe's still just a kid. We're not officially divorced. Keeping basic contact is totally reasonable. Who's going to stop us? Sure, I said with a faint smile and unblocked him. Then I casually accepted a friend request from a fake account I knew was Vanessa's. That same night, rumor had it Vanessa blew up at Eric for not buying her a designer purse she'd been eyeing. She clawed his face up so badly he ended up in the hospital. Lucy nearly had a stroke when she found out. As for me, I was in a great mood, already diving into my next investment project. Let Vanessa keep spying on my life. Let Eric keep chasing whatever he thinks he's missing. That chaos. That's their well-earned fate. I'd wasted 17 years chasing a version of success that was never really mine. That youthful drive I once had long since been worn down by marriage. I no longer had the energy, or the desire, to start from scratch and build a business all over again. So I chose a different path. I leaned into the role of Mrs. Bennet, attending high society galas, charity events, networking dinners, slowly expanding my social circle one glass of champagne at a time. I followed the investment moves of the real power players. They made big money, I made modest returns. But little by little my name began to carry weight. Emily, not just Eric Bennett's wife. Within 6 months my assets had doubled. The projects I invested in were thriving. I even made a point to cozy up to the CFO at Eric's company, gifted her a few designer handbags, brought her along to a couple of exclusive business events, casually taught her some finance strategies. Before long she became a trusted inside source. She kept an eye on the books, keeping me one step ahead of whatever sneaky tricks Eric and Vanessa might try to pull. One day she asked me, "You've already come this far. Why not just divorce him?" I laughed. Because Eric doesn't want to split the assets. He's still busting his ass to make money that I benefit from. Why would I ruin such a touching display of devotion? Love isn't a necessity. If he gets to play both sides, why should I walk away empty-handed? By the end of the year, Chloe made it into the top 100 of her class. She burst through the front door shouting the news, eyes sparkling with pride, and I found myself tearing up. Turns out, a calm and stable environment really does nourish a child's spirit. Without Eric and his mother constantly barking criticism, my emotions stayed balanced, and I no longer lashed out at Chloe over small mistakes. A calm mother creates a safe space, and Chloe's transformation was proof of that. "Sweetheart, let's go on a trip," I said. "The summer trip we never took. We'd make it happen this winter." When Eric heard about our plans, he eagerly volunteered to drive us to the airport. Vanessa tagged along too, clearly desperate for attention. I smiled at them both. "Why don't you join us?" Eric hesitated, but Vanessa jumped at the chance, probably imagining some romantic photo op. My plan was to take Chloe to Boston, to tour Ivy League campuses, visit Harvard and MIT, let her soak in the academic atmosphere and gain a clearer vision of her future. Chloe was thrilled. Vanessa, on the other hand, complained the entire time. "This trip is so boring," she whined. "I'd rather be at a ski resort." Chloe finally snapped. Her face tightened with frustration as she turned to Eric. "You destroyed this family just to chase your own selfish desires. You're not a husband, and this isn't a real family anymore. It's just embarrassing. And really, what makes her better than my mom? She never stops whining. If you didn't want to come, then why did you agree in the first place? If you want to go skiing, go on your own. It takes a special kind of fool to fall for someone so classless." "Chloe." Eric barked at her, clearly humiliated. But when he glanced over at me and saw my amused expression, his face turned crimson and he looked away. Chloe didn't back down. "Sure, you're my father," she said calmly. "But you stopped deserving that title a long time ago." She stared straight at him. "Parents are supposed to be role models. What have you taught me? As a husband, you cheated. As a father, you ignored me. Every time you call yourself my dad, don't you feel ashamed?" Damn. Even I had to resist the urge to applaud. She was growing up fast, and clearly inherited my gift for cutting sarcasm. Eric looked like a thunderstorm was brewing behind his eyes. There was a time I would have tiptoed around him, rehearsing every word before speaking, terrified of setting him off. No. I just took Chloe's hand and walked away. On campus, a guide led a group of parents and students on a tour. Past the library, the science buildings, the student union. Eventually, we stopped at a wall etched with the names of renowned alumni, each one glinting gold in the winter sunlight. Chloe stared at it, eyes wide with wonder. "Mom," she said softly, "I want to be someone like that." Her voice was low but firm, her eyes shining with determination. I squeezed her hand and smiled. "Then you'd better work hard for it. But I believe in you." After the campus tour, I took Chloe out for breakfast. Just as I finished paying the bill, I noticed several missed calls from Vanessa. I called her back, and the moment the line connected, I was hit with her hysterical sobbing. "Emily, are you trying to drive me to the edge? What happened?" "Eric left me. He just walked off and disappeared." Her voice was so nasal from crying it gave me a headache. "Then call him. If that doesn't work, call the police." "Why are you calling me?" "He blocked my number." "That bastard. You brought me on this trip. You have to take responsibility and get me back." She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I asked where she was, and sure enough, she was still standing in the same spot where everyone had split up. I hung up and turned to Chloe. "So, what do you think we should do?" "Well," she hesitated, clearly torn. "Honestly, I think she deserves it, but leaving her stranded like that feels kind of wrong." "You mean it feels a little heartless?" I smiled gently. "Chloe, remember this. If you repay evil with kindness, what do you use to repay kindness? Not everyone is worthy of your compassion. Especially people with twisted values. If you try to be the good guy, they'll treat you like you owe them. They won't be grateful. They'll just resent you for not letting them drain you dry." She nodded thoughtfully. I took her with me to go find Vanessa. "But it's good you see this for yourself," I said. "It's time you got a first-hand look at what being the nice one really feels like." Sure enough, Vanessa was still there. When she saw us approaching, her face twisted instantly. "Took you long enough. You left me out here in the wind on purpose, didn't you?" I glanced at Chloe. Her face flushed red, puffed up like a little angry muffin. "How can you talk like that?" she snapped. "You disrupted our plans and now you're blaming us for being late? Then why did you even call us in the first place?" Vanessa rolled her eyes, completely dismissive. Then she barked out orders like she was royalty. "I haven't had breakfast yet. Take me to eat. Then we need to hit the museum for photos and go to the lake for a boat ride." My friends are waiting for me to post pictures. Unbelievable. She was unbelievably shallow. Chloe finally lost her patience. We're only here to get you back to the hotel. Whatever sightseeing you want to do, that's your problem. Don't expect us to follow your itinerary. You're heartless. With Eric gone, Vanessa was completely unfiltered, her tone sharp and brash. It was your mom's idea to invite me. Now you two just want to ditch me? Emily's a total bitch and now her brat wants to play tough with me too? I guess I need to teach you some respect. She raised her hand to slap Chloe. I stepped in front of my daughter instantly and Vanessa froze mid-motion. You're out of control, Chloe shouted, trembling with rage. Fine, go ahead and leave. I'll call the cops and report you for abandoning me. Their shouting match had already drawn a crowd of bystanders. Chloe, still just a teenager, couldn't take the pressure and finally broke down, tears spilling down her face. Vanessa, meanwhile, smirked in triumph. When I didn't respond immediately, she doubled down. Chloe, call your father and apologize. Starting today, you don't get to interfere in anything between me and Eric. Got it? You're disgusting. Chloe sobbed harder, clinging to my arm, voice shaky but resolute. Mom, I was wrong. Some people really don't deserve our sympathy. Vanessa had always been obnoxious in front of me and I had never cared. But when she crossed the line by attacking my daughter, that was when I reached my breaking point. I took a deep breath and said to Chloe, call your dad on video. I had Chloe dial Eric on FaceTime. Vanessa, standing nearby, smirked triumphantly. Oh, finally getting smart, huh? Should have done this sooner, would have saved us all from arguing in the cold. The call connected quickly. I turned the camera toward Chloe. Eric, Vanessa just made your daughter cry. Before Eric could respond, I flipped the camera to Vanessa and said, didn't I warn you? Since you're so willing to play the mistress, maybe it's time you shut your mouth and stop causing trouble in front of me. Gasps came from the crowd around us. Emily. Vanessa screamed and Eric on the other end of the video call shouted at me. Vanessa tried to lunge at me but I pushed her down to the ground. I spoke directly into the phone at Eric. Chloe's right, you're getting dumber with age. You can't even choose decent people to associate with. There was complete silence on the other end of the call. I turned back to Vanessa. What's wrong? Aren't you laughing anymore? You seemed so happy just now. Go ahead, keep laughing. Vanessa's sobs intensified. The sound of sirens came from a distance. Chloe panicked. Mom, the police are here. Don't worry, we haven't done anything wrong, I said, smiling to reassure her. Vanessa, seeing the police approach, immediately shrank back. I sneered. Didn't you say you were going to call the police and report us for abandoning you? Well, here they are. Your wish has come true. The police, involved due to the domestic dispute, began to mediate the situation. After hearing the full story, the officer's expression shifted into something more knowing. Vanessa insisted on having an injury examination and the officer agreed, saying, we'll check for injuries, but just so you know, your verbal abuse toward these women will also be handled according to the law. Vanessa immediately stopped talking. She kept crying, seeking comfort from Eric, who was rushed there after picking up the phone call. But the police there exchanged looks, clearly uncomfortable with Vanessa's behavior. Your daughter is right here. As a father, can't you put yourself in her shoes and think about how this affects her? Eric quickly nodded, offering a nervous smile. The moment they left the police station, Eric exploded at Vanessa. Can you stop causing drama? You've nearly ruined our family and now you're not satisfied. Such a jerk. They'd both caused the mess together, but now he was placing all the blame on her. Vanessa stayed silent, occasionally sobbing, casting venomous glances at me. What a fool. I turned to Chloe. So, how's the experience of being the nice one? It's horrible, she replied, shaking her head vigorously. But then her eyes lit up. Mom, I finally understand what you were saying. From now on, I'm not going to let those so-called morals control me, and I won't be the weak, nice person anymore. Good girl. I couldn't help but smile and ruffle her hair, feeling a deep sense of pride. The scene with Vanessa didn't derail our trip plans. Later, Eric suggested once again that he join us. Chloe coldly refused. We're better off not being around each other. Don't force it. Eric was momentarily stunned. I took a few steps forward, then glanced back at him. He stood there, forlorn and pitiful. Well, he deserved it. Since we were already out, I took Chloe through the academic tour. The library, museums, science exhibits, historic streets, and unique coffee shops. We had fun while discussing her future, and I could see her enthusiasm reignite. She looked at me with a determined smile. "Mom, I'll get you into this university as a parent. I promise." I hugged her tightly, overwhelmed with emotion. "I'll make it happen," I whispered. I could feel my heart soften as her mother, proud and hopeful. That night, Eric showed up at my door carrying a bunch of gifts, wearing the look of a man desperately trying to make amends. "I picked these out myself for you and Chloe," he said with a forced smile. "Thanks." I politely blocked the door, not inviting him inside. He seemed to be trying to ease the tension, but I didn't engage with him, nor did Chloe say much. He just stood there until Vanessa showed up and another argument broke out. I didn't avoid Chloe. She needed to see this. The wreckage caused by a marriage full of broken emotions, muddled relationships, and poor choices. She was a smart girl and she deserved to know who her father truly was. More importantly, I wouldn't cover up for a man like him. What he was exactly what I'd show her. "Do you still have feelings for her?" Vanessa's eyes were red, and her usual flirtatious charm was long gone, replaced with hysteria. "Tell me, Eric, are you still thinking about her? Do you want to get back with Emily?" In a sudden burst of rage, Eric slapped her. She crashed to the floor, crying out in shock. Chloe jumped, scared, and curled into my arms. I held her tightly and said softly, "Eric, don't scare my daughter." Eric stood there, his face filled with regret. He opened his mouth but didn't say a word and awkwardly helped Vanessa to her feet before leaving. I gently patted Chloe's back. "When you're strong enough, you'll realize he's not scary. He's just bluffing." That night, Vanessa packed her things and left. The next day, Eric came back, concerned that something might happen to her. He stopped by to say goodbye to me and Chloe. "Sorry, I can't stay with you anymore." I gave him a blank look. "What is this?" "Emily, He stammered, looking unsure. "Actually, you and Vanessa, you both have your good qualities." "So what?" I stared at him, making him blush and look away. I sneered. "A man who tries to live off two women will end up starving under the table." He wasn't having it. "But you didn't really divorce me, did you? Look at other women, they'd be crying their eyes out over this. You haven't made a move, so aren't you still holding on to me? So what do you want?" I asked, following his line of thought. He smiled awkwardly. "Can you just be a little more tolerant of Vanessa? We're a family, don't make this worse." I slapped him without hesitation. "Fine, I'll tolerate Vanessa, but I can't tolerate you." He covered his face, stumbling back. I took a step closer, coldly saying, "Was your brain in your mother's placenta when she gave birth to you? Look at how pathetic you are, pretending to be all loving in front of me. You've forgotten who refused to divorce, who couldn't let go of the assets." I thought he might have some sense left, but he was about to pull off an even bigger stunt. I just... Eric, cornered by my stare, backed away, stumbling into the elevator. I pointed at him and shouted, "This time I'm divorcing you." He ignored me, pressing the elevator button and escaping without even looking back. I couldn't help but laugh in frustration. How had that shy, handsome boy turned into this sorry excuse of a man? Chloe leaned against me, gently comforting me. "Mom, don't let him get to you. He's not worth it." She snuggled into my arms, trying to cheer me up, and though I wasn't truly angry, I couldn't help but think. Some people, even after sleeping beside you for 20 years, you still can't see through them. With Eric and Vanessa gone, the air finally felt lighter. I had planned to stay in Boston with Chloe for the holidays, but news came suddenly. Lucy had been hospitalized. I hadn't intended to get involved. But Chloe was still worried about her grandmother, so I took her home. When we arrived at the hospital, the entire Bennett family was there. Even Eric's aunts had shown up, one after another, wiping away tears as they filled me in. That crazy woman Vanessa barged into the house and started screaming. Then she pushed Lucy and her head hit the corner of the table. "This can't just be swept under the rug." They were indignant, voices rising with outrage. One of the younger aunts clung to my hand, sobbing dramatically. "Emily, please forgive Eric. He was just manipulated by that woman. Vanessa is nothing compared to you. Lucy always said you were the daughter-in-law she was proudest of. What she needs now is someone kind and dependable like you. She's always seen you as her own daughter." Really? I remembered vividly how Lucy used to look down on me. The thought made me laugh silently. We're all on your side, another aunt chimed in. If you're willing to give Eric another chance, we promise. If he ever steps out of line again, we'll stand by you. Their performances were flawless. One voice after another, the emotional manipulation was well rehearsed. Even Eric bowed his head, remorse dripping from his voice. Emily, I know I messed up. Can you come back? You think this is a game? I spoke calmly, but each word was sharp. When I cared about you, I took care of your mother willingly. But now, she got hurt because of your mistress, and instead of holding her accountable, you come crying to me? Tell me, Eric, do you really think I'll feel sorry for you? Or are you just hoping I'll clean up your mess again? That's a cruel thing to say, one of the aunts cut in, frowning. I raised a brow. Why don't we have your husband cheat on you too, and then I'll come over and ask you to be more understanding? She choked on her words instantly. I looked at their hypocritical faces and couldn't help but feel the irony. When Eric cheated, these same people whispered behind my back with Lucy calling me useless. Now that Lucy's hurt, suddenly I'm the perfect daughter-in-law. They all thought I was stupid. It's a weekday. Let's go file the divorce papers. I was done entertaining the charade. Eric's expression shifted, eyes reddening as he said quietly, Emily, do you really have to do this now when I'm already going through so much? I took a step closer, my voice cool and firm. This is just the beginning. Wait until I really come to settle the score. By then you won't even get the chance to regret it. So he resisted. He even offered terms. He'd let me walk away with 75% of the assets, if only I would keep the marriage intact. Why? I asked him flatly. He looked away. I can't stand the thought of you with another man. If you're still my wife, even just in name, it gives me some peace. That's when I saw it clearly. He wasn't remorseful. He was just selfish, unable to let go. What he wanted wasn't love, but control. Even if it was only symbolic, he needed the illusion of ownership. That was the root of his sickness. Not love, but possession. I didn't accept his offer. I simply walked away. Because I had far more important things to do than waste another second on a man like him. I found out where Vanessa was staying. The moment she saw me, her face turned ghostly pale. I didn't do anything wrong. Lucy started yelling at me first. You started this mess. You're going to deal with the consequences. My voice was calm but firm. If you try to run, I'll have the police bring you back. I brought her straight to the hospital. Lucy had pulled through the critical stage but remained partially paralyzed. She needed constant care. I handed Vanessa over to the nursing staff, then made an announcement in front of the entire Bennett family. She'll stay here and take care of Lucy until the doctors say she can live independently again. The atmosphere instantly shifted. Tense, awkward, uncomfortable. Eric tried to object. Emily, isn't that a little too much? I shot him a cool glance. If you're willing to take care of your mother yourself, then she's free to go. He immediately shut his mouth. Vanessa looked utterly humiliated, but with all the sharp-tongued aunts hovering around keeping her in check, she had no choice but to swallow her pride and endure it. Lucy couldn't move, but her mind was still clear. When she heard the arrangement, her eyes flickered with complex emotions. I smiled at her. After all, she's the daughter-in-law you used to praise so highly. Now she finally has the chance to prove herself. Just what you always wanted, right? In the days that followed, Vanessa spent her time caring for Lucy and enduring the constant nitpicking from Eric's extended family. Eric himself grew more and more withdrawn, rarely showing up. A month later, Lucy was discharged. I brought her back to the villa, arranged for a professional caregiver, and even invited her sisters to stay with us for a while. Good girl, you did the right thing, they all said. Lucy's in good spirits now, she might recover faster. They praised me for being thoughtful, but I knew exactly what they really wanted. Someone to stick around and clean up the mess. Meanwhile, Vanessa was on the verge of a breakdown. Eric eventually moved back into the villa. That very night, Vanessa tried to sneak into his bedroom. I didn't stop her. Instead, I smiled and invited Lucy's sister, Aunt Annie, to discuss something privately. Conveniently, the door to Eric's room hadn't been locked. We pushed it open and caught them red-handed mid-scene. The air froze. Oh my God! Aunt Annie's face went pale. The rest of the family soon came rushing over. The scene was beyond awkward, but I didn't make a fuss. I simply turned and said, "This is the marriage you've all been urging me to preserve. You deal with it. Then I took Chloe's hand, turned around and walked away without looking back. The next morning I received a message from Eric. He had finally agreed to the divorce. That day, sunlight slanted softly across the courthouse steps. I arrived with Chloe by my side. She sat quietly in a corner of the lobby while I stood at the front doors, gripping the notarized property agreement in my hand. My suit was crisp, my hair neatly done. I was ready, just waiting for him to show up. And he did, haggard, worn out, eyes heavy with exhaustion. When he saw me, he looked like he wanted to say something, but I greeted him with only a small, polite smile. Not warmth. Not nostalgia. Just courtesy and distance. I wanted him to understand clearly. We were no longer on the same side of anything. We walked into the office without a single unnecessary word. The lawyers had already prepared everything. All that was left was our signatures. You're really, not even hesitating? He finally asked. I flipped through the documents, my voice calm, like I was reviewing a quarterly financial report. The moment you stepped out of our marriage, it ended. Today is just paperwork. He lowered his head and murmured, I'm leaving you 75% of the assets. Not out of guilt, just because I can't stand the thought of you belonging to someone else. I set the pen down and looked at him. Eric, you never owned me. You always thought marriage was about possession, and I was just a piece of your life's furniture. You've been performing for yourself on the wrong stage this whole time. Then I picked up the pen again and signed my name in one clean stroke. Chloe had been quietly watching from the side. As soon as I finished, she walked up and took my hand. Mom, we can finally start our own life now, right? I squeezed her hand gently and nodded. From today on, we live only for ourselves. As we stepped out of the courthouse, sunlight bathed us, warm and bright. Chloe and I walked down the stone steps side by side, our strides steady and strong. My story with Eric had ended, but mine with Chloe was just beginning. She was in the midst of the most critical chapter of her own growth, and I too was learning how to be a mother who truly respects and supports her child. One evening, out of the blue, she asked me, Mom, do you ever regret getting married? I paused, thinking for a moment. Then I answered softly, I don't regret marrying. I only regret losing myself in the marriage. She didn't say anything back, just leaned quietly against my shoulder. I could feel her internal conflict, though she didn't voice it. She was still trying to navigate her own complicated feelings toward her father. Eric still called sometimes, trying to repair the image of himself in her eyes. At first I told her gently, you can choose to keep in touch with him, if it doesn't hurt you to do so. She nodded but became increasingly quiet. Until one evening at dinner she finally spoke the truth she'd been holding in. Mom, I just can't forgive him. Not because of your divorce, but because he was never really present in this family. He made me feel like love was never something you could count on. I set down my fork and looked her straight in the eyes. You don't have to forgive him, Chloe. Maybe one day you will, maybe you won't. But don't ever let his failures define your worth. You deserve real love. Healthy love. That night she wrote Eric a long email. Not to accuse but to express. She laid out her disappointment, her anger, and the fact that she was done trying to please him. I didn't ask what she wrote. But afterward she seemed lighter. For your Mom, she told me later, I want to apply to a college farther from home. Not to run away, but to truly start my own life. I support you, I said, holding her hand. And I'm going to keep living mine too. A few months later, Chloe was officially accepted into an Ivy League university, just as she had hoped. I stood in front of her new dorm building, watching her beam with excitement. Mom, she said, eyes shining, this place looks exactly like how I pictured my dream. I took a photo of her, capturing that radiant smile, and posted it on social media with a caption that read, My beloved daughter is stepping into her future, and I'm moving forward with mine. My life no longer revolved around anyone else. I continued working as an investment consultant, became a long-term mentor for several women's leadership organizations, and was occasionally invited to speak in media interviews, sharing stories of rebirth and resilience from the perspective of women in midlife. During the holidays, Chloe would come home. We'd cook together, talk late into the night. She often teased, Mom, you're more of a free spirit than I am these days. I'd just smile at her. Because I knew, my life was no longer a quiet echo of compromise. It was a vibrant flame, burning entirely on my own terms. Life isn't about becoming someone else's shadow. It's about learning how to stand tall in the winds and storms and still live with grace. I finally understood. Happiness was never something to be handed to me by someone else. It was something I had to give to myself.